Imagine this. You're at a glittering ballet premiere, the dancers twirling like ethereal ghosts under the spotlight, when suddenly a piercing scream echoes through the theatre. A prima ballerina collapses center stage, her tutu soaked in crimson. Blood. Who did it, and why? That's the enigma we're unraveling in Poirot and the Bloodstained Ballet. Chapter 1. The curtain rises on Mystery Picture, the opulent, grand Theatre de Paris on a crisp autumn evening in 1932. The air buzzes with excitement as society's elite gather for the season's most anticipated event, the debut of Lilac Day. Scenes, sanglants, a bold reimagining of Swan Lake infused with dark, modern twists. Ladies in shimmering gowns and gentlemen in tailored tuxedos filled the velvet seats, their whispers a symphony of anticipation. But beneath the glamour lurks something sinister, something that will soon shatter the illusion of grace and beauty. Our story begins with Hercule Poirot, the legendary Belgian detective with his impeccably waxed mustache and razor-sharp mind, seated in a private box courtesy of an old friend, the theatre's director, Monsieur Duval. Poirot isn't here for leisure. Oh no, he's been discreetly invited because Duval suspects foul play amid rising tensions backstage. Mon ami, Duval had confided earlier that day over tea at a quaint cafe near the Seine. The dancers are at each other's throats, literally, I fear. Rivalries, secrets, and now anonymous threats. I need your little grey cells to prevent a disaster. Poirot, ever the gentleman, had nodded sagely, his green eyes twinkling with intrigue. Fear not, Duval, Poirot will observe, and the truth will reveal itself like a pirouette in the spotlight. As the lights dim and the orchestra strikes up the haunting overture, Poirot leans forward, his opera glasses scanning the stage. The prima ballerina, the exquisite Elise Moreau, emerges as Odette. Her movements fluid and mesmerizing, her white tutu a vision of purity. She's flanked by her rival, the fiery understudy Vivian Laurent, portraying the black swan ordeal with a predatory grace that hints at deeper ambitions. Backstage, the Corps de Ballet whispers about Elise's recent engagement to the wealthy patron, Baron Henry de Rochefort, a man whose fortune is as vast as his list of enemies. Vivian, they say, has been seen arguing with Elise, her jealousy bubbling like champagne gone flat. The performance unfolds flawlessly at first. Elise glides across the stage, her arabesques perfect, her leaps defying gravity. The audience is spellbound, Poirot included. He appreciates the precision of ballet as much as he does a well-constructed alibi. But midway through the second act, during the iconic pas de deux, disaster strikes. Elise spins into a dramatic pirouette, her partner, the dashing principal dancer Armand Duval, relation to the director lifting her high. As she descends, a sharp crack echoes, mistaken at first for a musical cue. Elise stumbles, clutching her side, and collapses in a heap. Blood blooms across her tutu, like a macabre rose, staining the pristine white fabric. The music halts abruptly, screams erupt from the audience, and chaos ensues. Poirot springs to his feet, his compact frame belying his agility, and rushes toward the stage, barking orders in his precise French-accented English. Do not touch her. Seal the exits. This is no accident-cessed unmurder. The house lights flood on, revealing the horror. Elise lies motionless, a small dagger protruding from her ribcage, its handle ornate and antique, glinting under the spotlights. The blade had been concealed somehow, perhaps in the scenery or even in Armand's costume, and propelled during the lift. But how, and by whom? Backstage erupts into pandemonium. Dancers huddle in tears, stagehands scramble, and the director, pale as a ghost, wrings his hands. Poirot takes charge, his voice calm amid the storm. He instructs the police, who arrive swiftly, to interview everyone but trust no one. The killer is among us, he declares, hidden like a shadow in the wings. First on his list is Armand, Elise's partner and rumoured lover before her engagement to the Baron. Armand protests his innocence, his hands trembling as he wipes sweat from his brow. I loved her. Why would I harm her during our greatest moment? Poirot notes the dancer's calloused fingers and a faint scratch on his arm, perhaps from a struggle. Next, Vivienne Laurent slinks forward, her black tutu still on, eyes narrowed in defiance. Elise was a tyrant, she admits coolly, stealing roles, breaking hearts. But murder, that's beneath me. Yet Poirot detects a flicker of satisfaction in her gaze, and he recalls whispers of her affair with the Baron could jealousy have twisted into vengeance. The Baron himself arrives moments later, dishevelled and distraught, claiming he was in his box the whole time. My darling Elise, he sobs, but Poirot spots a bloodstain on his cuff-innocent splash or damning evidence. As the police cordon off the scene, Poirot examines the dagger closely. It's no ordinary prop, engraved with a family crest belonging to the de Rochefort lineage. It suggests a personal motive. Was it planted to frame the Baron, or did he strike in a fit of rage over Elise's alleged infidelity? Poirot's mind races, piecing together clues. A torn piece of netting from Vivienne's costume near the body. A vial of stage blood that smells suspiciously real, and anonymous notes found in Elise's dressing room warning her to dance her last. The chapter builds tension as Poirot interviews the corps de ballet, uncovering a web of secrets. One dancer, young Marie, confesses to seeing a shadowy figure tampering with the props earlier that evening. A man in a dark cloak, perhaps the theatre's reclusive choreographer, Monsieur Lefebvre, who harbours a grudge against Duval for stealing his ideas. Lefebvre denies it, but his alibi is shaky. He was meditating alone in his office. Poirot smiles, knowingly the little grey cells are worry. Practical tips for aspiring detectives emerge naturally in Poirot's method. Always observe the details. Like the angle of the wound suggesting a throw from above, perhaps the catwalks. Question motives deeply, love. Money, revenge are classics, and never dismiss the obvious. Sometimes the killer hides in plain sight, like a dancer in the ensemble as the night wears on. Poirot gathers the suspects in the green room, his presence commanding silence. The ballet of death has begun, he intones, but Poirot will unmask the perpetrator before the final curtain. The chapter wraps with a chilling revelation, a bloodied pointe shoe found in Armand's locker, pointing to betrayal. Yet is it too convenient? This segues into the deeper investigations ahead, where alliances fracture and truths pirouette out of the shadows. Chapter 2. Shadows in the dressing rooms, asterisk, with the theatre now, a crime scene buzzing like a disturbed beehive. Poirot delves deeper into the labyrinth of backstage secrets, where egos clash harder than cymbals in a crescendo. The police have secured the perimeter, but it's Poirot's meticulous eye that uncovers the threads pulling this deadly puppet show. He starts in the dressing rooms, those intimate sanctums where dancers shed their stage personas and reveal their true selves, or so one might think. These rooms, lined with mirrors that reflect not just faces, but hidden resentments, hold clues buried under layers of makeup and discarded costumes. Poirot knows that to solve this puzzle, he must peel back those layers, questioning not just words but the silences between them. First, he enters Elise's private dressing room, a shrine to her stardom cluttered with bouquets of wilting roses, fan letters piled high, and a vanity table strewn with powders and perfumes. The air still carries her signature scent jasmine, with a hint of something sharper, like ambition. Poirot's gloved fingers sift through her belongings carefully. Avoiding the chaos of fingerprints that lesser detectives might overlook, he finds a locked jewelry box, its key hidden under a false bottom in a powder compactor. Clever trick, but not for Poirot. Inside, nestled among pearls and diamonds, is a stack of love letters, passionate and unsigned. But the handwriting matches samples from Armand's script notes he'd glimpsed earlier. "My swan, our dances must never end," one reads, hinting at a forbidden romance that could have ignited jealousy in multiple hearts. But there's more. A crumpled note in a different script, threatening, "Your spotlight dims, tonight step aside or fall." No signature, but the paper matches stationery from the theatre's office, narrowing suspects to insiders. Moving on, Poirot interviews the wardrobe mistress, Madame Colette, a stout woman with pins perpetually in her mouth and eyes that dart like frightened birds. She's been with the company for decades, sewing secrets into every seam. Elise was demanding, she confesses, her voice a whisper as she mends a torn hem, always wanting alterations at the last minute. But Vivian, that one sneaks around, borrowing costumes without asking. Colette recalls seeing Vivian near Elise's room hours before the show, fumbling with a prop box. Could she have planted the dagger? Poirot probes gently, using his charm to coax details. The dagger wasn't from the props department. It was a real antique, perhaps smuggled in. He shares a tip for viewers fascinated by detection. Always trace an object's origin. Its history often betrays the culprit, like breadcrumbs. In A Fairy Tale Gone Wrong, the investigation shifts to the Baron's alibi. Baron Henry de Rochefort, pacing in a side room under police guard, exudes wealth with his gold cufflinks and monogrammed handkerchief. But his composure cracks under Poirot's scrutiny. "I was in my box, enthralled by her performance," he insists. But Poirot notes the man's watch stopped at the exact time of the murder, convenient for faking an alibi. Digging deeper, Poirot learns from a usher that the Baron slipped out during intermission, claiming a headache. Where did he go? To confront Elise about rumors of her rekindling with Armand. The Baron admits to financial troubles, his fortune tied to shady investments, and Elise's insurance policy names him beneficiary. Motive aplenty, Poirot muses, illustrating how money weaves into murder like a hidden wire in a marionette. For practical advice, he might suggest checking financial records. Early ledgers don't lie. Even if people do, Vivian Lauren's turn comes next. In her shared dressing area, alive with the chatter of lesser dancers who've been dismissed but linger like ghosts. Vivian, still in partial makeup that accentuates her sharp features, lounges defiantly on a chaise, filing her nails as if bored by the accusation, jealous of Elise's fading glory. "Please," she scoffs, but Poirot catches her glancing at a photo on her mirror of her and a baron at a gala, arms linked intimately. She denies an affair, claiming it's professional networking. Yet her alibi wavers. She was on stage, but during a brief blackout in the lighting, anyone could have moved unseen. Poirot recreates the moment mentally, timing it 30 seconds, enough for a quick throw from the wings if one knew the choreography. He finds a discarded glove in her trash, stained with what looks like grease from the catwalks above the stage. "Mademoiselle, your hands betray you," he says softly, teaching us that physical evidence speaks volumes. Always match anomalies to actions. Interspersed with these interrogations, Poirot examines the technical side, climbing to the catwalks with a reluctant stagehand named Jacques, a burly man with a limp from a past fall. Up here, amid pulleys and ropes that control the scenery, the view overlooks the entire stage like a god's perch, perfect for a ranged attack. Jacques admits to spotting a figure earlier, cloaked and hooded, tampering with the rigging. "Thought it was Lefebvre, the choreographer. He's always fussing up here," Jacques grunts. Poirot discovers a loose bolt on a spotlight, perhaps meant to cause a distraction, and fibers from a black cloak snagged on a nail. These match material from Lefebvre's office, where Poirot finds sketches of the ballet with angry revisions, crossed out in red ink. Lefebvre, when confronted, blusters about artistic theft. "Duval stole my vision for this production." But murder, absurd. Yet his hands shake, and Poirot notes ink stains matching the threatening notes. A lesson here: grudges fester in creative fields. Probe professional rivalries as deeply as personal ones. As suspicions swirl, Poirot gathers minor characters for insights: the orchestra conductor, who heard whispers of sabotage in the pit; a makeup artist who applied a fresh scar cover on Armand's arm, suggesting a recent fight; and Marie, the young cause dancer from before, who now reveals overhearing Vivian and the Baron arguing about ending it all backstage. These threads weave a tapestry of deceit, with each suspect's story intersecting like dancers in a complex formation. Poirot pauses to reflect, sipping a tisane brought by a sympathetic officer, his mind organizing facts into neat compartments. He demonstrates deductive reasoning, list alibis chronologically, cross-reference with witnesses, and watch for inconsistencies, like Vivian's claim of no catwalk access. Contradicted by her glove, the chapter intensifies with a near. As Poirot inspects the dagger's hiding spot in the cinerea fake tree with a hollow branch, a sandbag plummets from above, narrowly missing him. Sabotage. He whirls to see a fleeting shadow vanishing into the rafters, confirming the killer's desperation. This prompts a lockdown, and Poirot accelerates, interviewing Armand again in a dimly lit prop room. Armand, sweat beading on his forehead, confesses the affair, but swears loyalty. The pointe shoe, planted. "I found it thereafter," he pleads. Poirot tests the blood. It's real, but diluted, suggesting premeditation. Tips emerge: use science where possible. A simple test can differentiate stage props from reality. Deeper dives reveal company politics. Duval, the director, owes money to the Baron, who threatened to pull funding unless Elise got the lead over Vivian, his mistress. Lefebvre, bitter, had pitched a rival show. Marie whispers of a secret society among dancers, vowing to protect their art from outsiders like the Baron. Poirot unravels these, his questions probing like a surgeon's scalpel, exposing wounds of betrayal. Wrapping up, Poirot assembles preliminary findings in his notebook. Motives stack like dominoes. Clues point in circles, but one thread tugs stronger. The dagger's crest links to the Baron's family, yet fingerprints on it are smudged, perhaps wiped hastily. This chapter of shadows hints at alliances cracking under pressure, setting the stage for revelations in the underbelly of Paris, where the night hides more than stars. Chapter 3. Whispers in the Parisian Nighters, dawn's first light creeps over the Seine, painting the city in hues of gold and grey. Poirot steps out from the theatre's shadowed embrace into the awakening streets of Paris. The murders echo still, reverberates in his mind, but he knows truths often lurk beyond the footlights. In the dimly lit cafes and hidden alleys where secrets simmer like forgotten stews. With the police focused on guarding the scene, Poirot pursues leads that tug him into the city's underbelly connections to Elise's past, the Baron's shady dealings, and whispers of an underground network among artists that could tie everything together. He hails a taxi, his overcoat flapping like a cape, directing the driver to Montmartre, where bohemian souls gather and tongues loosen with absinthe. The night holds the key, he murmurs to himself, and Poirot will unlock it before the cock crows. His first stop is La Chat-Noir, a notorious cabaret frequented by dancers and patrons alike, where Elise was said to have performed in her early days before rising to stardom. The club, with its velvet curtains and smoky haze, buzzes even at this early hour with stragglers from the night's revelry, painters nursing hangovers, musicians tuning weary instruments, and waitresses with knowing smiles. Poirot orders a café au lait, his eyes scanning the room for familiar faces. He spots an old acquaintance, a retired ballerina named Sophie, now the club's hostess, her once graceful frame bent but her memory sharp as a stiletto. "Ah, monsieur." Poirot, she greets him warmly, settling into a booth adorned with faded posters of past performances. Word travels fast, the tragedy at the Grand Theatre. Poor Elise. She started here, you know, dancing for pennies and dreams. Sophie spins tales of Elise's youth, a girl from the provinces, orphaned young, who clawed her way up through sheer talent and ruthless determination. She made enemies even then, Sophie confides, sipping her cognac, stepped on toes, auditions, stole solos from girls who needed them more. But her real trouble came with a man, a shady promoter named Raoul, who promised her the world but left her in debt. Poirot leans in, his notebook discreetly open. Raoul, it turns out, vanished years ago after a scandal involving forged contracts. But rumors place him back in Paris, lurking in gambling dens. Could he have resurfaced for revenge, using the dagger as a symbolic strike? Poirot extracts a description tool. Scarred cheek, fond of red cravats, and thanks Sophie with a tip. In investigations, old friends are cultivate networks like a gardener tends roses, for they bloom with unexpected fruits. Emboldened, Poirot ventures deeper into Montmartre's winding streets, following a tip from Sophie about a speakeasy where the Baron reportedly conducts business. The place, hidden behind a nondescript bakery, requires a password swan song whispered through a peephole. Inside, the air thick with cigar smoke and jazz rhythms. Card tables host games of high stakes, and shadowed booths conceal deals, struck in hushed tones. Poirot poses as a Belgian investor, his accent adding authenticity, and eavesdrops on conversations that reveal the Baron's vulnerabilities. A group of financiers mutters about his failing investments in colonial ventures, loans called in by ruthless creditors. One man, a portly banker with a monocle, boasts of pressuring the Baron. He'll sell his Solor, his fiancées, to stay afloat. Poirot intervenes subtly, buying rounds to loosen lips, learning that the Baron had argued with Elise over her refusal to pawn family heirlooms, including that antique dagger. Motive deepens perhaps, he staged the murder for insurance, framing another, a practical nugget here. Financial desperation breeds desperate acts. Trace money trails like veins in a body, for they lead to the heart of malice. As twilight descends, turning the Eiffel Tower into a silhouette against the sky, Poirot tails a lead on Raoul, spotted at a nearby casino. The establishment, glittering, with chandeliers and the clink of roulette wheels, swarms with the city's elite and underworld alike, disguised with a borrowed fedora from a sympathetic doorman. Poirot navigates the crowds, his keen gaze spotting a man matching Sophie's description. At the baccarat table, Raoul, older but unmistakable with his scar, plays recklessly, chips piling and vanishing. Poirot approaches under the guise of a fellow gambler, engaging in small talk about old times in the arts. Raoul's eyes narrow suspiciously, but wine flows, and he admits bitterness toward Elise. She betrayed me, took my ideas and ran, owed me fortunes in commissions. He denies involvement in the murder, claiming an alibi at the casino all night, verifiable by the croupier. But Poirot notices Raoul's cufflinker swan motif, matching one found near the theatre's back entrance earlier, overlooked in the initial sweep. Confronted, Raoul flees into the night, prompting a chase through cobblestone alleys. Poirot's breath steady despite his age, aided by a passing shot. Raoul escapes, but not before dropping a wallet containing receipts for wire transfers to Vivienne's account. Alliance or blackmail? Poirot ponders, illustrating how pursuits reveal connections. Always follow the fleeing suspect for panic. Unveils truths, regrouping at a quaint bistro overlooking the Seca. Poirot sifts through these nocturnal discoveries, piecing them with theatre clues. He telephones a contact at the Screet. An old ally Inspector Japtho relocated to Paris. For this tale who confirms Raoul's criminal record, forgery, extortion, even a prior assault with a blade. Jap shares files on a dancers' union, a clandestine group protecting performers from exploitative managers, which Elise had joined but later betrayed by siding with Duval in a labor dispute. Vivienne, a union leader, might have enlisted Raoul for the hit, using the Baron's dagger to misdirect. Poirot tests this theory by visiting a union safehouse in Pigalle, a run-down apartment above a burlesque hall where members gather in secrecy. Posing as a sympathetic journalist, he gains entry, listening to grievances, low pay, injuries ignored, stars like Elise hogging the limelight. A young unionist peer spills under Poirot's gentle probing. Vivienne rallied us against Elise, said she'd ruin us all with her barren ties. Meetings turned heated talk of removing obstacles. Pierre shows minutes from sessions, coded but decipherable to Poirot's eye, mentioning the Black Swan strikes. Evidence mounts, with tips for sleuths, infiltrate groups subtly, pose as an ally to unlock guarded doors. The night deepens with a storm brewing, rain pattering on zinc roofs as Poirot uncovers more. At a pawn shop near the Moulin. Chapter 4. Echoes from the orchestra pit with the city's nocturnal revelations tucked into his mental dossier, like carefully folded handkerchiefs. Poirot returns to the Grand Theatre as morning sunlight filters through its grand arches, casting long shadows that mimic the intrigue within. The theatre, now eerily quiet after the night's evacuation, serves as the arena for pointed confrontations, where alibis will be tested against fresh evidence and suspects' facades might finally crack. Under the weight of scrutiny, Poirot convenes a gathering in the orchestra pit, that sunken realm below the stage where musicians once harmonized but now witnesses assemble, like notes in a discordant symphony. Mise Amos, he announces to the assembled group Duval, Armand, Vivienne, the Baron, Lefava, and a few key others. The melody of murder plays on, But Poirot conducts the finale. Speak truth, or the crescendo will engulf you. The pit's acoustics amplify every whisper, every nervous shift. Turning the space into a natural confessional, he begins with Duval, the director, seated on a cello case, his face etched with exhaustion. From a sleepless night spent placating board members via frantic telegrams, Duval insists on his innocence, claiming he was in the control booth during the fatal act, overseeing lighting cues. But Poirot produces a log from the booth's operator, showing Duval absent for crucial minutes, enough time to slip to the catwalks. You owe the Baron funds, Nan. And Elise's death halts his withdrawal threats. Poirot probes his voice, echoing softly. Duval stammers about a bathroom break, but sweat beads on his brow, betraying nerves. Poirot shares an investigative pearl. Timelines are symphonies. Missing beats reveal the conductor's sleight of hand always. Synchronize witness accounts with mechanical records like logs or clocks for harmony or discord. Turning to Armand, who fidgets with his dance belt, Poirot unveils the pawnshop receipt, linking him to Raoul's gambling circle. Your debts dance a dangerous tango, monsieur. Did you trade Elise's life for relief? Armand's eyes widen in protest, admitting the sales but swearing they were old items, not connected to murder. He reveals a twist. Raoul approached him weeks ago, demanding payment or sabotage of the show, but Armand refused, earning that scratch in a scuffle. Poirot examines Armand's hands anew, noting defensive wounds consistent with a recent tussle, not an attack. This prompts a tip for budding detectives. Physical marks tell tales. Differentiate offensive from defensive by pattern and location. Like reading sheet music for intent, Vivian, poised dramatically against a harp, scoffs at the accusations, her posture a study in defiance. Poirot confronts her with the wire transfers from Raoul, traced via bank slips obtained from his dropped wallet. Your networking funds a vendetta, mademoiselle. The union's black swan strikes, your code for elimination. She falters, admitting union frustrations, but claiming the money was for legal fees against Duval's mismanagement. Yet Poirot produces Pierre's testimony, the young unionist's minutes decoded to show her rallying for drastic action. Vivian. Composure slips as he describes the glove's grease-matching catwalk residue, suggesting her presence aloft. Ambition leaps high, but falls hard. Poirot quips, offering advice. Financial flows are rivers. Follow them upstream to sources of corruption, using receipts and transfers as maps. The Baron, lounging on a timpani drum like a throne, interrupts with bluster, demanding his lawyer. Poirot silences him with the insurance policy details procured from a discreet call to the company's office, revealing a recent amendment doubling the payout upon Elise's death. Your cuffs stain, your dagger's crest coincidences, or choreography. The Baron claims the amendment was Elise's idea for security, and the stain from a pre-show nosebleed. But Poirot reveals a witnesser, vendor outside the theatre, who saw the Baron arguing with Raoul in a side alley. Heated words about settling scores. The Baron's face pales, admitting a past business with Raoul gone sour, but denying murder. Ties. This exchange highlights a sleuthing strategy. Leverage external witnesses. Outsiders provide unbiased notes in the investigative score. Lefebvre, the choreographer, huddles near the conductor's podium, his sketches scattered like fallen leaves. Poirot displays the blueprints from his studio, the prop launcher design adaptable for lethal precision. Your grudge against Duval fuels invention, monsieur. Did you rig the trees hollow for the blade? Lefebvre erupts in defense, claiming that designs were theoretical, stolen by Duval for the production. He admits meeting Vivian to plot a rival show, but swears no violence. Poirot tests this by recreating the launch mechanism with a stage prop, demonstrating its feasibility from the catwalk styming matches the blackout. Lefebvre's alibi crumbles when a stagehand recalls him borrowing tools that day. Poirot imparts wisdom. Inventions betray creators. Examine blueprints and prototypes for modifications that sing of malice. Amid these grillings, Poirot orchestrates group dynamics, noting reactions. Vivian's glare at the Baron suggests fractured alliance. Armand's sympathetic glance toward. Duval hints at loyalty. He introduces Marie, safely escorted from hiding. Her testimony replayed the payoff sighting between Vivian and Raoul. Marie adds detail. Overheard phrases like, "The lift is the moment," aligning with the murders. Timing. This group setting amplifies tensions. As suspects accuse each other, the Baron points at Lefebvre's temper, Lefebvre at Armand's desperation. Poirot navigates the chaos, his calm a counterpoint, teaching that confrontations are orchestras. Conduct them to reveal disharmonies in stories. Deeper probes uncover overlooked elements. The orchestra conductor, Monsieur Blanc, summoned from his nearby apartment, confesses hearing odd noises from above during rehearsal scrapes, like someone adjusting. Rigging. Blanc's score sheets show annotations for extended pauses, perhaps inserted to aid the killer's positioning. Poirot examines the sheets, finding erasures suggesting tampering. Blanc admits pressure from Duval to alter timings, but denies knowledge of foul play. This leads to a tip. Documents evolve. Look for revisions and erasures as echoes of intent, using light angles to reveal indebted ghosts. As accusations fly, Poirot reveals the diluted blood's analysis, rushed via a lab Chapter 5. The labyrinth of lies unravels. The orchestra pit's tense symphony of accusations fades into uneasy silence. Poirot retreats to the theatre's dimly lit foyer, where gilded mirrors reflect a mosaic of half-truths and lingering doubts. The suspects disperse under watchful police eyes, each carrying the weight of scrutiny like an ill-fitted costume. But Poirot senses the puzzle's core remains shrouded, a central figure pulling strings from the periphery. With fresh dawn coffee in hand, sourced from a nearby vendor's cart, he pores over his notebook, cross-hatching connections that form a labyrinthine web, rules, shadowy dealings intersecting with union grievances. Lefebvre's inventive malice, looping back to financial desperations. The dance of deception quickens, he mutters, deciding to navigate this maze by tracing the weapon's path more deeply, from forge to fatal thrust, unveiling accomplices who lurk in the theatre's forgotten corners. This phase demands precision, like a ballerina's balance on pointe, where one misstep could topple the entire edifice of evidence. Poirot begins by summoning the props master, a grizzled veteran named Emiel, whose workshop in the theatre's basement resembles a treasure trove of illusions, fake swords, collapsible sets, and vials of theatrical potions stacked haphazardly on shelves. Emile, wiping grime from his hands with a rag, eyes Poirot warily as the detective inquires about the dagger's anomaly. "That blade, not one of mine," Emile grunts, leading Poirot to a ledger of inventory. Flipping through yellowed pages, Poirot spots discrepancies. A similar antique prop logged as loaned from the Baron's collection months ago, but never returned. Emile recalls the Baron delivering it personally, insisting it for authenticity in a historical scene cut later. He was insistent, almost nervous, Emile adds, mentioning overhearing the Baron on a phone call afterward, muttering about insurance against losses. Poirot nods thoughtfully, extracting a detective's insight. Inventories are silent witnesses. Audit them for absences that scream louder than presences. Cross-checking dates against personal timelines to spot orchestration. Delving further, Poirot examines the basement's understage machinery, a network of levers and trapdoors that could facilitate unseen movements during performances, accompanied by Jacques the stagehand, whose limp slows their pace but not his candor. They crawl through dusty passages where echoes of rehearsals linger like ghosts. Jock points out a concealed ladder leading to the catwalks, its rungs freshly oiled and usual for routine maintenance. Someone wanted smooth access, Jacques speculates, and Poirot finds a discarded cigarette butt at the base, branded with a rare import favored by Raoul, per Sophie's earlier description. Testing the ladder, Poirot ascends gingerly, recreating potential paths the killer might have taken, timing it against the show's blackout. It fits, 10 seconds to position, throw, and retreat. This physical simulation offers a tip: embody the crime. Walk the perpetrator's steps to gauge feasibility, noting environmental clues like oil or debris that fingerprint the furtive. Emerging from the depths, Poirot intercepts a telegram delivered to Duval, intercepted discreetly by a cooperative officer. The message, from an anonymous sender, warns: the swan's blood dries, but yours flows next if silence breaks. Duval, when shown, pales and confesses partial truths. He's been receiving such threats for weeks, tied to his debts, but hid them. Fearing scandal, Poirot presses, linking it to the union's coded minutes, perhaps Peer or another insider leaking. Duval reveals a safe in his office, cracked open by Poirot's insistence, containing IOUs signed to Raoul, totaling thousands. He blackmailed me over past indiscretions, Duval admits, involving embezzlement from theatre funds to fuel a gambling habit shared with Armand. This confession peels another layer, with Poirot advising communications are threads, intercept, and analyze missives for tone and timing, as urgency often betrays proximity to the act. Shifting focus to the medical angle, Poirot visits the clinic where Vivian volunteered. A modest facility in the Latin Quarter bustling with nurses and patients, posing as an insurance investigator, a role suiting his meticulous demeanor. Reviews logs with the head nurse, a stern woman named Claudette. Records show anticoagulant vials missing, signed out under Vivian's name for dance troupe first aid. Claudette recalls Vivian's unusual request for extras, citing frequent injuries, but Poirot spots a pattern: withdrawals spike before major shows, perhaps stockpiling for sabotage. A patient overhears and volunteers, saw Vivian meeting a scarred Manrule outside, exchanging a package. Poirot thanks her with discretion, underlining a strategy: medical trails heal slowly. Query logs and staff for anomalies in supplies, correlating with event dates for premeditated patterns. Back at the theatre, Poirot orchestrates a subtle tale on Lefebvre, enlisting Inspector Japp's men to shadow the choreographer to his Bouleville studio. Reports filter in via phone. Lefebvre meets a courier, receiving blueprints stamped with a foreign patent office. Poirot rushes over, confronting Lefebvre mid-sketch. Your inventions extend beyond stage, Monsieur patents for projectile devices. Lefebvre deflates, admitting side work for a novelty company, but one design matches the launcher rig. He confesses adapting it at Vivien's behest, thinking it for a prank to discredit Elise, not murder. She promised a new production, My Name in Lights, he laments. Poirot seizes the patents, noting modifications in red ink matching the threatening note style. This breakthrough teaches creators leave signatures, scrutinize works for evolutions that mirror criminal adaptations, using patents or drafts as evolutionary trees, as afternoon wanes, casting elongated shadows across the stage. Poirot reunites with Marie in a secure green room, bolstering her courage with assurances of protection. She elaborates on the payoff, not just words, but a glimpse of cash bundles marked with bank bans from the Baron's institution. Vivien counted them greedily, Marie whispers, adding she trailed Raoul afterward to a warehouse near the Gare du Nord, hearing clinks of metal, perhaps more weapons. Poirot dispatches officers there, who report back, the site abandoned, but littered with swan feathers and a map circling the theatre. Symbolic or literal, Poirot interprets it as taunt, advising viewers. Symbols in crime are subliminal confessions. Collect and contextualize them against suspects' histories for psychological profiles. Intensifying the unraveling, Poirot engineers a faux leak to the press, whispered rumor to a reporter contact that evidence points to the Baron solely. This bait flushes reactions. The Baron storms the theatre demanding exoneration, but, in his rage, drops a keychain with a clinic fob linking him to the anticoagulant theft. Confronted, he admits visiting for personal health, but receipts show consultations on poisons, research for a novel investment, he claims weakly. Meanwhile, Vivien attempts flight, caught at the train station with a suitcase of union funds. Her interrogation yields cracks. Raoul was her hired blade, but the plan derailed when Elise discovered the affair. Poirot interweaves this with practical counsel, provoke with misinformation, observe responses as litmus tests for guilt, timing, escapes or outbursts against planted seeds. Deeper excavations reveal the diluted bloods. Source: lab confirmation it's Elise's own, drawn perhaps during a routine checkup compromised by an insider. Claudette requestioned, fingers a temp nurse with ties to the dancer's secret society, who vanishes suspiciously. Poirot traces her to a Montmartre hideout, a garret filled with union pamphlets and a diary ranting against prima tyrants. The diary entries align with threat timelines, naming accomplices in code. Deciphering them, Poirot uncovers Pierre's deeper involvement. He rigged the sandbag as diversion. Pierre, arrested en route, spills, a cell within the union, radicalized by Vivien, aimed to reshape the company post-murder. This network exposure offers a lesson. Societies harbor subsets, map hierarchies and outliers through documents, identifying radicals by deviation from group norms, as evening cloaks the theatre. In velvet darkness, Poirot assembles fragments in solitude on stage, spotlighting himself metaphorically. He tests the hollow tree prop anew, finding a hidden compartment with residue of the anticoagulant proof of planting. Armand, summoned for clarification, confesses overhearing the plot, but staying silent for fear of debt collectors. I adjusted. The lift timing subtly, he admits tearfully, minimizing his role. Poirot consoles while cuffing, emphasizing redemption in confession. Partial truths erode fortresses. Encourage incremental admissions to build full pictures. The labyrinth twists further with Raoul's capture at the casino. Cornered by Jap's raid. His interrogation, witnessed by Poirot, unspools the thread. Hired by Vivien, via barren intermediaries. He threw the dagger from the catwalks, using Lefebvre's rig. Payment in heirlooms, Raoul sneers, implicating the Baron's dagger as collateral. But Raoul hints at a puppet master Anonymous calls, directing the hit. Poirot analyzes call logs, tracing to a public booth near Duval's home. Duval, the director, reconfronted, breaks. He orchestrated it all, driven by ruinous debts, manipulating rivals' grudges like a conductor. Elise's insurance would save the theatre, he sobs. Having diluted her blood from a stolen sample, this climax of confessions. Knots the web, Duval the architect, exploiting others' motives, Vivien's jealousy, Baron's greed, Lefebvre's bitterness, Armand's fear, Raoul's muscle, Poirot's grey cells triumph, with final tips. Masterminds hide in oversight, revisit initiators when peripherals align, using elimination to spotlight the core. Yet loose ends dangle. The temp nurse's flight suggests deeper conspiracy. As suspects are led away, Poirot gazes at the empty stage, sensing an encore of intrigue, segueing to a dawn of formal accusations where justice pirouettes into view, but not without one last twist in the tale's intricate choreography. Chapter 6. The Dance of Motives, with the theatre now a silent witness to confessions and arrests. Poirot gathers his thoughts in the grand auditorium, where empty seats seem to hold the ghosts of last night's audience. The labyrinth of lies has unraveled, revealing Duval as the mastermind. But Poirot's instincts hum with the sense that motives still twist like dancers in a hidden pas de deux. The morning light streams through stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns on the floor, mirroring the complex interplay of greed, love, and revenge that fueled Elise's murder. To tighten the case, Poirot must dissect these motives, further delving into personal histories and relationships that simmered beneath the ballet's polished surface. He calls for a series of private interviews in the theatre's rehearsal studio, a mirrored room where reflections reveal more than faces, setting the stage for truths to leap forth like a grand Jeet. Poirot begins with Armand, now under guard, but allowed a moment to explain his heart. Seated on a folding chair, his dancer's poise replaced by slumped defeat. Armand recounts his past with Elise Love, born in late-night rehearsals, where their chemistry in dance spilled into passion. Offstage, she was my muse, he confesses, voice cracking, but her engagement to the Baron tore us apart. He admits to bitterness, especially after Elise distanced herself, but insists he'd never harm her. Poirot probes deeper, producing a love letter. From Elise's jewelry box, its ink smudged with tears, begging Armand to wait for me. Armand breaks, revealing he met her secretly days before the performance, where she hinted at breaking off with the Baron. She feared his temper, he says, suggesting a motive for the Baron's involvement. Poirot notes the emotional weight love. Scorned can curdle into vengeance, shares a detective's tip. Emotions are motives, roots. Trace romantic entanglements through letters and clandestine meetings to unearth buried passions that drive crime. Next, Poirot summons Vivian to the studio, her black rehearsal leotard a stark contrast to her earlier defiance. She paces before the mirrors, her reflection a gallery of calculated expressions. Poirot confronts her with the union's coded minutes, now fully deciphered, revealing her as the orchestrator of dissent, rallying dancers against Elise's dominance. She monopolized every opportunity. Vivian spits, admitting she saw Elise's fall as a chance to reclaim the spotlight. But she denies murder, claiming Raoul acted rogue, fueled by his own grudges. Poirot unveils a new clue, a stagehand's testimony about Vivian's late-night visits to the prop room, handling the hollow tree where the dagger hid. Her alibi cracks. She claims costume adjustments, but no records support it. Poirot observes her trembling hands, a sign of guilt's pressure, and advises, watch body language in interrogations. Involuntary cues like shakes or glances sing, louder than rehearsed denials. The Baron enters next, his aristocratic swagger diminished, his tie askew. Poirot lays out the financial web, the insurance payout, his debts to creditors, and Raoul's claim of heirloom payments. The Baron counters, with a tale of philanthropy, insisting he supported the theatre out of love for Elise, not profit. But Poirot produces bank statements sourced from Japp's overnight inquiries, showing withdrawals funneled to offshore accounts, timed suspiciously before the murder. Your love was costly, Monsieur Poirot remarks, noting a ledger entry. For a consultant matching Raoul's alias, the Baron stumbles, admitting he hired Raoul to intimidate Elise into compliance, not kill her. This partial confession unveils greed's role, with Poirot offering a sleuthing strategy. Financial records are scorecards, track irregular transactions to spotlight desperation, using dates and aliases to connect players. Lefebvre, summoned last, slouches in his artist's scarf, a defiant flourish. Poirot revisits the launcher blueprints, now cross-referenced with patent filings showing Lefebvre's signature on a lethal modification. A prank turned deadly, Lefebvre insists, claiming Vivian coerced him with promises of funding a rival. Ballet, but Poirot finds a sketch in Lefebvre's satchel. A vengeful caricature of Elise stabbed mid-pirouette, dated weeks prior. Confronted, Lefebvre admits nursing a grudge, his choreography sidelined for Elise's favoured shows, but denies rigging the murder. Poirot presses on, artistic pride. Your genius crafted death's stage, Nan. Lefebvre's silence speaks volumes, prompting a tip. Creative outputs mirror minds. Analyze sketches, writings, or designs for subconscious confessions of intent. To deepen the motive map, Poirot consults Marie, now a protected witness. In a corner of the studio, she shares dancer gossip. Elise's rise alienated peers, her demands for perfection sowing resentment. Marie recalls a rehearsal where Elise humiliated Vivian publicly, sparking union talks of balancing the scales. This collective envy, Poirot deduces, fueled Vivian's leadership in the plot, with Duval exploiting it. Marie's diary, retrieved from her locker, lists dancers loyal to Vivian, some with minor roles in the rigging sabotage. This social dynamic teaches group motives amplify individual. Chapter 7. The forensic pirouette with motives, laid bare like a choreographer's notes. Poirot shifts to the cold precision of forensics, seeking to anchor suspicions in tangible proof. The theatre's prop room becomes his laboratory. It's cluttered. Shelves now a backdrop for scientific scrutiny, where blood, fibers, and mechanisms will speak louder than denials. The morning's bustle, police cataloguing evidence, reporters clamoring outside fades as Poirot collaborates with Dr. Claire Fournier, a forensic chemist summoned from the street's lab, her expertise a counterpoint to his intuition. Science, ma chère, is the ballet of facts, he tells her, adjusting his tie as they prepare to dissect the crime's physical remnants, pirouetting through evidence to pinpoint the killer's final misstep. First, they tackle the diluted blood, staining Elise's tutu, now preserved in an evidence bag. Dr. Fournier's analysis, rushed overnight, confirms it's Elise's blood mixed with heparin, an anticoagulant sourced from the clinic. Poirot hypothesizes premeditation. The killer drew Elise's blood earlier, perhaps during a staged injury, to create a dramatic effect. Fournier runs a spectral test, revealing trace sedatives in the sample, suggesting Elise was drugged subtly before the show, slowing her reflexes. Poirot recalls a water bottle in Elise's dressing room, its seal broken tested now. It shows sedative residue. This points to an insider with access, likely Vivian or Duval. Poirot shares a forensic tip. Chemical signatures narrate crimes. Test residues in personal items to uncover sabotage, matching compounds to access points for intent. Next, they examine the dagger. Its ornate handle under a microscope, revealing partial fingerprints, not enough for identity, but showing glove smudging, suggesting a careful killer. The blade's metal, per Fournier's metallurgy scan, matches a de Rochefort family alloy, confirming its origin but not its wielder. Poirot theorizes it was stolen from the Baron's collection, planted to mislead, and requests a trace on its storage history. Fournier finds microabrasions, indicating it was fitted into a launcher, corroborating Lefebvre's design. This mechanical link prompts a lesson. Weapons carry histories. Analyze wear and modifications to trace their journey from storage to strike, using metallurgy or wear patterns as guides. The hollow tree prop, central to the murder's execution, yields more. Fournier dusts its compartment, finding Raoul's prints alongside grease from the catwalk glove Evian's. A spring mechanism inside, triggered by a timer, aligns with Lefebvre's blueprints, set to release during the blackout. Poirot tests it with a dummy blade, confirming precision only a choreographer's mind could calibrate. But a stray thread, caught in the spring, matches Duval's office carpet, not previously noted. Confronted, Duval admits inspecting props, but claims ignorance of the rig. Poirot's insight. Objects are storytellers. Dust and threads with narratives of presence. So catalogue every fragment against suspects' environments. Fournier's team analyzes the sandbag's rope, its fibers frayed deliberately, with traces of a rare polish used in Lefebvre's studio. This sabotage, meant to scare Poirot, ties Lefebvre tighter to the conspiracy, though he insists it was a panicked act. Poirot examines the catwalk's rigging logs, finding unauthorized access logged under a fake name decoded. It's an anagram of Pierre's surname, the Unionist. Pierre, requestioned, admits loosening bolts under Vivian's orders, thinking it for a protest. This layered sabotage teaches conspiracies stack evidence, dissect secondary acts like sabotage to map accomplices, using logs and aliases to trace chains of command. The microphone wire from the scenery, a listening device, undergoes scrutiny. Fournier's tech expert traces its signal to a receiver in Duval's office, confirming he spied on Elise's plans. The wire's insulation bears bite marks human, per dental analysis, matching Raoul's dental records from a prior arrest. He chewed in frustration. Perhaps Poirot muses, linking Raoul's temper to his role as muscle. This forensic oddity offers a tip. Quirks in evidence reveal character. Analyze damage patterns for behavioral clues, like stress or haste, too. Profile the doer. Poirot and Fournier revisit the stage light's tampering. Its log showing a reset by a technician named Luc, now missing. Jap's men track Luc to a dockside bar, where he confesses Duval paid him to misalign the light, creating the blackout's cover. Lutz's tools, found in his flat, match scratches on the prop tree's screws. This technical sabotage underscores. Accomplices leave tool marks, trace equipment to users via wear or ownership, linking minor players to the master plan. As forensics weave a tighter net, Poirot tests the anticoagulants clinic trail. Fournier's contacts confirm the temp nurse, linked to the Union, stole vials under Vivian's guidance, using a forged signature. The nurse's garret diary, now fully decoded, lists drop-off points for Raoul, including the warehouse with swan feathers, theatrical touch, perhaps Vivian's flair. This staging advises props are deliberate. Analyze symbolic items like feathers for the killer's personality, tying them to motives like pride or vengeance. The chapter culminates in a forensic report, presented to Jap in the prop room, detailing blood, prints, and mechanisms as a choreographed crime. Duval's carpet thread seals his role as orchestrator, manipulating Vivian's ambition. Chapter 8. The choreography of confessions. The theatre's grand stage, now stripped of its opulent scenery, stands bare under harsh work lights, a fitting arena for the raw truth Poirot seeks to unveil. The suspects, Deauville Vivian, the Baron, Armand, Lefebvre, and Pye assemble under police supervision. Their faces a gallery of tension, defiance, and fear, like dancers awaiting a brutal critique. Poirot, center stage, commands their attention with the poise of a maestro, his moustache twitching as he prepares to orchestrate a series of confessions that will expose the conspiracy's full choreography. The air crackles with anticipation, the auditorium's silence amplifying every creak of the floorboards. Madame, et messieurs, he begins, his voice a velvet blade. The dance of deceit ends here. Each step, each lie, has led us to this moment. Now, confess or Poirot will reveal your parts in this murderous ballet. This gathering is no mere interrogation. It's a performance where guilt will take the spotlight. Poirot starts with Pierre, the young unionist whose nervous fidgeting betrays his role as a pawn. Standing near the orchestra pit, Pierre avoids eye contact, clutching a crumpled Union pamphlet. Poirot presents the decoded minutes from the garret, highlighting Pierre's coded signature on sabotage orders. You loosened bolts, monsieur, thinking it a protest, but you aided a killer's stage, Poirot states, producing the rigging log with his anagrammed alias. Pierre collapses into a chair, confessing he followed Vivian's lead, believing the Union's cause justified minor disruptions. She said we'd save the dancer's future, he stammers, revealing Vivian's promises of a restructured company postally. Poirot notes the power of manipulation, sharing a detective's insight. Pawns move first in chess and crime. Question subordinates to uncover the hands guiding them, using their loyalty as a lever to pry open larger schemes. Vivian poised defiantly at stage left, bristles as Poirot turns to her, holding the clinic's anticoagulant log and the grease-stained glove. Your ambition choreographed chaos, mademoiselle. You rallied the Union, funded Raoul, and placed the dagger. She counters with a rehearsed laugh, claiming her actions were for dancers' rights, not murder. But Poirot unveils Marie's testimony about the payoff, corroborated by bank bands in Raoul's wallet matching Vivian's transactions. Her composure fractures when he describes the swan feathers at the warehouse, her signature flair. You craved the prima's role, Nan, and Elise's fall was your rise, he presses. Vivian admits partial truths. She paid Raoul to scare Elise, expecting a resignation, not death. Her confession, though incomplete, exposes her as a linchpin, with Poirot advising, leaders in conspiracies leave trails. Cross-reference there. orders with physical evidence to map their influence. The Baron, stationed near a prop throne, interrupts with aristocratic bluster, demanding release. Poirot silences him with the offshore account records and the clinic fob found in his possession. Your greed, monsieur, financed this tragedy. The dagger, your heirloom, was no coincidence. The Baron admits hiring Raoul to pressure Elise into selling assets, but insists he meant no harm. Poirot counters with the insurance policy's amendment, timed to maximize payout, and the alley argument witnessed by the vendor. You whispered of scores to settle, Poirot says, noting the Baron's nervous glance at Duval. Under pressure, the Baron reveals he tipped Duval about Elise's threat to expose embezzlement, unknowingly setting the murder in motion. This admission underscores a tip: financial motives entangle. Trace payments and benefits to uncover silent partners, using timing to reveal intent. Lefebvre, slouched by a stage curtain, faces Poirot's scrutiny over the launcher mechanism. The caricature sketch, now displayed, betrays his venom toward Elise. Your pride, monsieur, crafted a deadly prop, Poirot accuses, showing the patent filing for the modified launcher. Lefebvre confesses adapting it for Vivian, believing it a theatrical stunt to humiliate Elise during the show. I wanted my art recognized, he mutters, admitting he ignored warning signs of lethal intent. Poirot seizes on this, illustrating how pride blinds and advises. Creative grudges fuel crimes. Dissect artistic outputs for emotional undercurrents, as sketches or designs reveal suppressed rage. Armand, standing center stage, is next, his dancer's grace marred by guilt. Poirot revisits the love letters and the sedative-laced water bottle, suggesting Armand's proximity to Elise made him an unwitting tool. You adjusted the lift's timing, monsieur, aiding the fatal moment, Poirot states, citing the stagehands. Account of Armand's last-minute choreography tweak. Armand weeps, admitting he altered steps under Duval's subtle pressure, thinking it to protect Elise from overexertion. I loved her, he insists, unaware his adjustment aligned with the dagger's release. Poirot consoles gently but firmly, teaching, love can be exploited. Examine actions taken under emotional duress to spot manipulation. Verifying against technical logs. Duval, the orchestrator, stands. Chapter 9. The hidden hand revealed as evening drapes the grand theatre in a velvet hush. Poirot prepares for the final act, assembling all players in the opulent lobby, where chandeliers cast a golden glow on marble floors, reflecting the weight of impending truth. The suspects, now weary from confessions, sit in a semicircle of velvet chairs, flanked by Japp's officers. Poirot stands before a grand mirror, its frame carved with cherubs, using its reflection to observe subtle reactions, twitches, glances, breaths that betray the final secret. The ballet nears its finale, he declares, but one dancer remains in the shadows, the hand that laced Elise's water with sedative, ensuring her fall. Step forward, or Poirot will call your name. The tension is palpable, like a string quartet holding a high note before the resolve. Poirot begins by revisiting the sedative, its presence confirmed by Dr. Fournier's tests as a subtle dose, enough to dull Elise's reflexes without suspicion. He recalls the water bottle's broken seal, found in her dressing room, and a new clue, a faint lipstick trace on its rim, not Elise's shade, per her makeup artist's inventory. This points to a woman with intimate access, someone trusted. Poirot turns to Madame Colette, the wardrobe mistress, seated quietly, her pins now idle in a tin. You, madame, handled Elise's costumes daily, with access to her private space, he says, producing a lipstick tube from her sewing kit, its hue matching the bottle's trace. Colette flinches, insisting she only adjusted Elise's tutu. But Poirot reveals a witness, a junior seamstress, who saw Colette lingering in Elise's room before the show, handling her personal items. You resented her demands, Nan, her perfectionism. That overworked you. Colette breaks, admitting she slipped the sedative, pressured by Duval, who promised her a pension for loyalty. I didn't know it would kill her, she sobs. Poirot nods gravely, teaching. Trusted allies betray subtly. Scrutinize routine interactions for anomalies, like misplaced items or lingering presence to tighten the net. Poirot revisits the warehouse feathers, their theatrical flourish suggesting a mind obsessed with symbolism. He produces a photograph from the Garrett diary, showing Colette at a union rally, wearing a swan pendant to detail Marie missed. You were no mere seamstress, madame, but a union radical aligned with Vivian's cause. Poirot accuses. Colette confesses her deeper role, planting feathers to echo the ballet's theme, a signal to the union of their triumph. This symbolic act offers a detective's tip. Symbols are signatures. Trace recurring motifs to their source, linking them to personal or group ideologies. Poirot then addresses the temp nurse's disappearance, a loose end. Japp's latest report, delivered mid-session, locates her in Lyon, hiding with relatives. Her telephoned confession, played via speaker, confirms Colette's guidance in stealing the anticoagulant, acting as a courier between Vivian and Raoul. Colette knew the clinic's routines, the nurse admits, implicating the seamstress as a silent coordinator. Poirot uses this to illustrate. Peripheral players connect dots, pursue missing links through communication trails, like calls or couriers, to reveal hidden orchestrators. The Baron, sensing the noose, accuses Colette of framing him. But Poirot counters with a new find, a coded letter in the Baron's safe, intercepted by Japp, instructing Raoul to secure the asset, Elise's death before her exposé. The Baron's role as financier deepens, his panic showing in clenched fists. Poirot turns to Vivian, whose earlier confession omitted Colette's involvement. You shielded your ally, mademoiselle, but the feathers betray you both, he says, noting her glance at Colette. Vivian admits Colette's radicalism fueled the Union's plot, but insists she acted under Duval's orders. This layered conspiracy prompts a tip. Alliances shift. Watch for protective glances or omissions to spot unspoken pacts among conspirators. Armand, silent till now, offers a final piece. He saw Colette whispering with Duval post-rehearsal, discussing the bottle. Poirot uses this to confront Duval anew, who admits enlisting Colette as a trusted insider, exploiting her resentment and union ties. She was invisible, perfect, Duval says, revealing how he used her access to execute the sedative plan. Poirot's grey cells align the final pieces. Duval's vision, Vivian's ambition, Raoul's blade, Lefebvre's rig, Pierre's sabotage, the Baron's funds, and Colette's silent hand, all choreographed into Elise's fall. The lobbies. Mirrors reflect the group's defeat, as Poirot summarizes. Colette's sedative. Chapter 10. The curtain falls on justice as midnight chimes over Paris, casting the Grand Theatre in a moonlit glow that softens its ornate facade. Poirot convenes the final assembly in the theatre's gilded salon, where crystal decanters and plush armchairs evoke a bygone elegance now tainted by betrayal. The conspirators, Vivian, the Baron, Raoul, Lefebvre, Pierre, and Colette, in a tense circle, their handcuffs glinting under lamplight, while Inspector Japp and his officers stand sentinel. Marie, Sophie, and other witnesses hover at the edges, eyes wide with anticipation. Poirot, sipping a final tisane, positions himself before a massive portrait of a legendary ballerina, her painted gaze seeming to judge the guilty. Mon Amis, the ballet of blood, concludes, he announces, his voice resonant and unyielding. Poirot has assembled the puzzle, every motive, clue, and confession dances into clarity. Listen well, for justice pirouettes no more in shadows. This denouement is Poirot's masterpiece, a revelation that ties every thread into a flawless knot. Ensuring no escape for the wicked, he commences with the crime's genesis, painting Duval as the desperate impresario whose embezzlement and debts birthed the plot. You, Duval, saw Elise's insurance as salvation, her exposure a death sentence for your empire. Poirot elucidates, citing the journal entries and IOUs as proof of his financial abyss. Duval nods mutely, his dreams of theatrical glory shattered. Poirot explains how Duval recruited Vivian, stoking her envy with visions of stardom, evidenced by their coded union minutes and her warehouse flair. You funded Raoul, mademoiselle, but Duval pulled your strings, he says, turning to Raoul, whose scarred face twists in defeat. Raoul's role as executioner emerges, the catwalk throw, honed by his promoter's cunning, linked by his print's cigarette, butts and dental marks on the wire. You struck 4 coin, but Duval's whispers made it lethal. Poirot intones, a lesson in how greed hires blades. Weaving further, Poirot spotlights Lefebvre's inventive wrath, his launcher the crime's mechanical heart. Your pride forged the weapon, monsieur, adapted under Duval's coercion, he states, holding the blueprints aloft, their lethal tweaks a testament to artistic betrayal. Piers, sabotage, the loosened bolts and sandbag, served as diversions, his youthful idealism exploited via union promises. You thought it rebellion, but it was regicide, Poirot chides, gently, urging reflection on manipulated zeal. The Baron's greed fueled the fire, his funds and heirloom dagger providing tools and misdirection. You sought profit from loss, Baron. Tipping Duval to Elise's threats, Poirot accuses, the offshore accounts and coded letter sealing his complicity. Armand's unwitting aid, the timed lift born of lingering love, added tragic irony. Your heart blinded you to the trap, Poirot consoles. The love letters, a poignant reminder of innocence, twisted dot at the web's core. Colette's hidden hand takes center stage, her sedative the subtle prelude to doom. Invisible in the wings, Madame, you laced the bottle with resentment's poison, Poirot reveals, the lipstick trace and pendant symbols of her radical soul. Colette's tears flow as he describes her as Duval's perfect enabler, her access and union ties bridging gaps in the conspiracy. The temp nurse's distant confession, replayed for all, confirms her as courier, the stolen vials a bridge between clinic and catastrophe. Poirot masterfully interconnects these roles. Duval's orchestration exploited Vivian's ambition to rally Pierre and Colette, Lefebvre's genius to arm Raoul, the Baron's wealth to fund it all, and Armand's loyalty to fine-tune. The fatal moment, a pas de Plusieurs, where each dancer's step led to murder, he declares, demonstrating how isolated grudges fused into collective crime. To illustrate, Poirot enacts a symbolic recreation, using props to mimic the stage, a doll as Elise, strings, representing manipulations pulled by Duval's puppet master hand. See how the blackout bribed by Luc hid Raoul's ascent. Colette's sedative dulled her dodge. Lefava's rig propelled the blade. He narrates, the audience gasping as the doll falls. This visualization underscores the precision with sharing his ultimate detective wisdom. Crimes are symphonies of opportunity. Harmonized timelines, motives, and evidence to conduct the truth. Never overlooking the quiet players like seamstresses or technicians who enable the crescendo. Justice swiftly follows. Jap announces charges murder for Duval and Raoul, conspiracy. For Viviane, the Baron, Lefava, and Colette, accessory for Pierre and Armand. The latter's sentence lenient due to coercion. The Baron forfeits his fortune to the theatre's revival, a poetic restitution. Marie, empowered, vows to lead a reformed union, honoring Elise's memory with fairer practices. Sophie, the retired ballerina, offers to mentor the troupe, her tales of yesteryear inspiring renewal. As the guilty are led away, their footsteps echoing like a fading ovation. Poirot stands alone on stage, the spotlight dimming. The curtain falls, but life dances on, he reflects, his grey cells at rest. In the salon once more, Poirot bids farewell to Jap, commending his aid, and to the witnesses, urging them to cherish art's beauty over its shadows. Outside, Paris awakens to scandalous headlines, the theatre's future brightened by truth's catharsis. Poirot hails a cab to his hotel, the case closed, his mind already twirling toward new enigmas. Yet in this tale, he leaves a legacy that even in glamour's glare, deception lurks, but reason always prevails. And that's the end of our thrilling journey through Poirot and the blood-stained ballet. If you loved unraveling this mystery with me, hit that like button. Subscribe for more detective adventures and story scripts, and comment below who did you suspect first. Your thoughts keep the conversation dancing.